The ayes have it. Members, I understand the next financial review is the financial review of the Ministry of Justice. The question is that the report of the Justice and Electoral Committee on the 2012-13 financial review of the Ministry of Justice be noted.
Mr. Chair.
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity just to take a call on this matter. Can I just like to take the opportunity to thank the staff of the Ministry of Justice for the excellent work they've done over the last year, and in particular with the major work of reform that has been undergone within the Ministry, but also in the provision of justice generally. The issues that we have around making justice more accessible, more user-friendly to people, and to demystify many of the things that have been somewhat mystified over the years. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Justice and Electoral Select Committee that has done a sterling work over the last year, and I'm sure that they will continue to do so. This is, in fact, a committee that has worked very hard to come to, wherever they can, consensus opinions, but also where they haven't been able to have consensus, have been able to deal with the fact that not all parties are going to agree with everything, and have done so on a reasonable basis. One of the areas where the committee has been involved, and where justice is obviously majorly involved, is that of electoral reform and elections generally. We've seen in the last year something that we've never seen before in New Zealand, and that is we've seen a person convicted in the courts of electoral fraud, 70-odd names, people supposedly living in one address, all to do in local government. But as has, if you think about it now, under the easy vote card system, which we have been urged by the Electoral Commission to extend further, 70 of those easy vote cards would have gone to one household. And the committee, I know, has been very much involved in looking at how the easy vote card can be used, but not to the detriment of the integrity of elections. And I would have thought anybody who can't remember what their name is as they're coming up to vote may in fact not be the person whose name's on the easy vote card. So I'd like to thank the committee for its pretty much, I think, was unanimous report back, which I understand will be debated later tonight. But that's some of the work that the Electoral Committee, Justice Electoral Committee does. And it's also some of the area of the Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice ranges right across family law, criminal law, civil law generally, our human rights record, all those sorts of areas, as well as electoral reform. It is a huge ministry in terms of its workload, and a huge ministry in terms of the numbers of pieces of legislation that it has responsibility for. Recently, I was able to represent New Zealand along with ministry and other officials at the United Nations in Geneva on our human rights record, which I have to say was greeted with a tremendous amount of acclaim, frankly. And I was really proud to be representing New Zealand, and I think all members of Parliament should be pleased with the fact that New Zealand does have an excellent human rights record, and we will continue to do so, certainly under this government. It's one of the areas where nobody brought up the electoral issues. They didn't bring up the Electoral Finance Act under a former government. They didn't have to, because we've already dealt with them. Well, they didn't have to bring up the foreshore and seabed legislation under a former government, because again we'd dealt with that too. So there is a tremendous amount of support. And in fact, one of the things that they really, our staff over at the ministries were very impressed with the number of ambassadors from other countries who stood in a queue to go and shake my hand on behalf of New Zealand. I have to say, I was quite pleased with that. And I also felt that it was a testament to the work of many, a testament to the work of this House, and also a testament to the work of our agencies who help to keep New Zealand such a safe and good citizen within the world. And as we've seen in Europe recently, just the last few days, this is not something that can be taken for granted. And in fact, elections and electoral responsibility, integrity are matters that we cannot take for granted, and we cannot presume that anyone armed with a little card with someone's name on it is necessarily the person that they claim to be. And as I've said before, if you can't remember what name it is that you're using today, perhaps it's not you. It's one of the areas where I think we need to be vigilant on, and I'd like to thank Dennis O'Rourke, whose idea this was in the Select Committee. I'm not sure he's necessarily now supporting it, but that's called politics. Unfortunately, integrity still has a way to come within politics. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The question is that the report of the Justice and Electoral Committee on the 2012-13 financial review of the Ministry of Justice be noted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. I understand the next financial review members wish to debate is a financial review of the